Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Blame It on the Stars, where we give you an inside look to what's going on in the universe so you can blame your problems on the stars. It is Jade here.
And it's Kara.
And this week, Scorpio season begins. We're going to give you the entire overview of what happens during Scorpio season so you know what you're getting into up front. But in case you missed it, last week we had the full moon in Aries and Venus entered Sagittarius. So if you want to know more about those two transits, then definitely check out last week's episode before diving into this one.
And just to give you a heads up, next week we have 3 transits that we are going to be talking about. We will discuss the new moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Sagittarius, and Mars in Leo. So listen next week if you want to know more about how those affect you.
And on that note, the only transit during Scorpio season that happens this week is the sun entering Scorpio. So we will be covering that more in depth now in this episode. But everything else, including what Kara just mentioned, the new moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Sagittarius, Mars in Leo, in addition to the full moon in Taurus and Venus in Capricorn, Saturn stationing direct, and Pluto re-entering Aquarius. We'll talk about them now so you have a taste of what's to come, but they will all have their own episodes in the future weeks with more details. And with that being said, let's dive into the episode. So Scorpio season begins on October 22nd at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Per usual, the date and time are from the website astroseek.com. How this affects you. When the sun enters the sign of Scorpio, we all as a collective begin to take on those Scorpio-like energies, meaning that you'll notice you are more determined, passionate, and more willing to dive into more deeper topics during Scorpio season.
What you can expect. While the sun's in Scorpio, you might feel more in tune with your emotions and ready to explore what's beneath the surface. This makes it a good time for self-reflection and letting go of things that are holding back and no longer serve you. You also might notice that there's more of a desire to get to know others on a deeper level and reflect on the things that matter to you the most.
Now, there are some key dates you're going to want to pay attention to. These are the aspects that the sun will make while it moves through Scorpio. The first is on November 4th. The sun will trine Saturn, which is a day where you may feel more disciplined when it comes to achieving your goals.
And then on November 16th, the sun will be opposite Uranus. Even though Scorpio is a fixed sign and likes things to stay the same, you can definitely expect there to be unexpected changes or surprises happening on this day because of Uranus. So just remember to be flexible and be open to trying new things.
And then lastly, on November 18th, the sun will trine Neptune, which can be a day where you are feeling more in tune with your intuition as well as your creative side. Now, everything else, as we just mentioned earlier, that happens during Scorpio season will have their own episodes in the weeks to come, but we'll still tell you a little bit about it now. The next thing that happens during Scorpio season is the new moon in Scorpio on November 1st at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What you need to know is that new moons are new beginnings and they're all about setting intentions. And since this is in Scorpio, those intentions will likely surround themes of transformation, healing, and building deeper connections.
Something you should know is that this new moon will also be trine Jupiter, which is a very positive energy. Jupiter represents growth and optimism, so it will definitely support the new intentions and goals that you're setting for yourself around the time of the new moon.
Then the day after, we'll have Mercury entering Sagittarius. This will happen on November 2nd at 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How this will affect you when Mercury is in Sagittarius, you're becoming much more open-minded when it comes to how you're communicating and what you're thinking about. So you may feel more inspired to just take on new ideas, explore new philosophies, and learn new things in general.
What you need to know: while Mercury is in Sagittarius, your communication and thinking will be more straightforward and honest. You might find that you are being more direct around this time. So definitely be mindful to balance that with being sensitive and empathetic to others, just to avoid any unnecessary conflict or saying things without thinking.
Then the day after, Mars will enter Leo. This is going to happen on November 3rd at 11:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a transit that you should be paying attention to. You will hear more in next week's episode. But for now, what you can expect when Mars is in Leo, you will notice that when it comes to taking action, you're much more confident and even more bold and creative, making this a good time for leadership.
Something you might not know is that Mars will eventually retrograde in the sign of Leo. So definitely pay attention to the themes that come up for you around this time, because this energy will be here for a while.
And speaking of retrogrades, we will have Mercury Retrograde Pre-Shadow begin on November 7th at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The retrograde does not happen until Sagittarius season, but the pre-shadow will start November 7th. What you need to know: when Mercury enters its pre-shadow, we start preparing for the miscommunication to show up. So this is a time to review and reflect on any plans that you might have in the upcoming weeks, since the retrograde will happen in Sagittarius season.
How this affects you: as you are preparing for the upcoming retrograde, this is a good time to pay attention to the small details and to finalize anything in your schedule before the retrograde begins. It's also a good time to take care of any really important communication, whether that be in person, in meetings at work, or through writing. It's a really good time to, again, just get all of the last minute things done before the retrograde period begins.
The next thing that happens during Scorpio season is Venus entering Capricorn. This will happen on November 11th at 1:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Something you should know is that when Venus enters Capricorn, you become much more future focused. Since Venus does deal with our relationships, our creative side, and our finances, during this transit, you may be thinking more about long-term planning, especially as it pertains to those themes.
What you can expect: as soon as Venus enters Capricorn, you might notice that you want to create more stability and routine for yourself. Because Venus does deal with beauty, that could mean that you are being more disciplined about self-care or reorganizing and decorating the space around you. It's all about finding ways to feel secure and build a solid foundation in your environment.
The next thing that happens during Scorpio season is Saturn stationing direct in Pisces. This will happen on November 15th at 9:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. How this affects you: once Saturn retrograde ends, you'll start to really solidify and implement any of the lessons and structures that you built for yourself during the retrograde period. So moving forward, it's going to be a better time to take more practical steps towards achieving some of your goals.
Something you might not know is that Saturn's energy in Pisces can really help balance the need to be creative and imagine new possibilities for yourself. With Saturn's very disciplined energy, it can be very helpful to start taking practical actions to make your ideas and inspirations reality for you.
And on the same day, we'll have the full moon in Taurus. So this is November 15th, but at 4:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What you need to know is that full moons are about releasing and letting things go so we can bring more space for new things to come. And this full moon is really going to be highlighting themes of stability and security. So during this time, it's going to be important for you to assess what stability and security means for you, and if there's anything that is blocking you from achieving that solid foundation.
How this affects you. Because full moons can bring up a lot of emotions, this could be a really good time to focus on doing things for yourself. Taurus energy is known for being connected with the senses. So you might want to light a candle, sit on the couch with a cozy blanket, just do anything that brings yourself a sense of comfort or security.
And then lastly, we end Scorpio season with a bang. Pluto entering Aquarius on November 19th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Something you should know is that Pluto re-entering Aquarius marks a very significant shift towards a big collective transformation, especially when it comes to innovation, technology, social change, and humanitarian efforts. We previously had moments with Pluto being in Aquarius, but then it would retrograde out into Capricorn. Once it comes back into Aquarius on November 19th, it is going to stay there for several years.
What you can expect on a personal level is you might notice that there are some shifts and reflection going on in the way that you connect with others, use technology in your life, and embrace new ideas. This is a good time to reflect on your relationship with technology, how you interact with others, how you socialize, and maybe seeking out new ideas and perspectives.
And that is it for this week's episode. Next week, we'll be diving deeper into the new moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Sagittarius, and Mars in Leo. So definitely make sure wherever you're listening to this podcast, you're subscribed with the notifications turned on so you don't miss when we post next week. But until then, that is all for now, and we'll see you all next Monday.